Hello, everyone. We're doing something a little bit different. Well, it's a bit of a callback to what we used to do. So I did this last year and I'm going to do it again this year. So let's wrap up my year with a tier list of everything I consumed this year. Um, I'm using Capwing as my site for this. I'm not using TierMaker or anything like that because I can't be bothered making an account. But Capwing, you guys are the G for this one. So starting off, we have The Old Guard. This was a comic book about immortal people who basically couldn't die, and they became mercenaries for whatever reason. It's a bit of a weird one. I know there was a movie made on it. It was a request. I did not like it. I thought it was nonsensical. I thought it was incredibly stupid. And for me, The Old Guard is like a D tier. Like I said, it's very nonsensical. Why, if you were immortal, the last thing you would do is become a mercenary for money. Like it made no sense to me. So The Old Guard gets a D. Next up, let's go with next in the list. We have The Tulsa King. It's a TV series on Paramount Plus. It stars my boy Sylvester Stallone. Everyone knows I love him. Now this series isn't finished, so I'm basing this off what I've seen, which is like the first 6 or 7 episodes at this point. But The Tulsa King, where am I going to put you? Everyone knows The Tulsa King is an A series. It's so fun. I highly recommend you go and see it if you haven't seen it. Definitely watch The Tulsa King. I love this show. It's just fun. Sylvester Stallone's a mobster, did his 25 years, didn't rat, gets out, and, unfortunately, the mob aren't too happy and too warm welcoming with him, and they send him to Tulsa, Oklahoma, where he sort of starts from scratch. I'm not going to say any more than that. It's a great show, and I think everyone should watch it. It is incredible. Next in the list, we have The Wingfeather Saga. So there's only 2 episodes out right now, and I'm talking about the TV series, not the books, because I'm yet to read the books. This is a TV series. It's very wholesome. It's good for the family. It's free on the Angel Network. It's so well animated. It's absolutely gorgeous. I love what I've seen so far, but I have only seen the first 2 episodes. Based on that, The Wingfeather Saga on these 2 episodes also gets an A. I genuinely think you should watch this show if you haven't seen it already. And have your kids sit down with your kids as well, etc., and watch The Wingfeather Saga. It is so good. It's so good. I don't know what else to say. It's just a fun fantasy series. Heavily, heavily recommend. All right. Oh, let's start with Cyberpunk Edgerunners then. Cyberpunk Edgerunners. I love the game. The game was great. The game would be an S tier. Edgerunners, on the other hand, is a D. I didn't like it. D for did not like. There were a lot of problems with Edgerunners, from a very sort of phoned in story to overuse of the term edge runner and cyberpunk, and just poor writing overall. I wasn't a huge fan of most of the music choices either. I mean, the stuff from the game was from the game. Oh, and that's the other thing. So many little winks and nods like, hey guys, this was in the game. Did you see this thing from the game? But not focusing on the story they're trying to tell. So yeah, Cyberpunk Edgerunners, massive letdown. Definitely did not enjoy, unfortunately. I wish I did enjoy it as much as the game, but I did not. So Cyberpunk Edgerunners got a D. But then we got Pantheon. Pantheon is a cyberpunk TV series on AMC. It is basically everything that I enjoy about cyberpunk, that I wanted to have in Cyberpunk Edgerunners, but done a million times better. No, it's not set in the future. It's set in the present day, but I think that's fair because we do live in a cyberpunky kind of world already. People just need to wake up and realize that. And yeah, Cyberpunk, it tugs at the heartstrings. It's got this really interesting, unique story to do with big tech. I'll leave it at that. You definitely want to watch Pantheon, and Pantheon gets the first S tier. This show was so good. So Pantheon is an S. You should definitely go and watch Pantheon. I really enjoyed it. If you like Cyberpunk, Pantheon is the way to go. So yeah, Pantheon gets an S tier from me. All right, now we have Samaritan, another Sylvester Stallone. This is a superhero movie. It's fairly low budget. Came out in 2022, like everything in this list. And I really enjoyed Samaritan. It was very good for the budget. It was kind of wholesome-ish. It felt like a 90s movie, if that makes sense. So where am I going to put it on this list, though? I don't think it's as good as Tulsa King. But I don't think it's bad like Old Guard and Edge Runners. I'm going to give it a solid B for Samaritan. Yeah, really fun, low-budget movie. Kind of gave me vibes of like Kick-Ass. That kind of vibe. And I like Kick-Ass, but yeah, I also like Samaritan. So Samaritan gets a B tier from me. I think that's fair. Oh, here's one I haven't spoken about on the channel at all yet since reading it. The Gargoyles comics. This is a 2022 relaunch of my favorite cartoon series of all time. I'm very, very excited for this until I read the first issue. I haven't read all of it, so keep in mind this is based on what I have read. However, the relaunch of Gargoyles is a D. The first issue spends more time talking about who's sleeping with who than actually setting up a story. And I was really incredibly let down. There's some awfully cheap art. It's really confusing, like low-res backgrounds that are just stretched to fit the panel. It's really weird. Really weird, very upsetting. I hope come the end of 2023 when I've read it all and I do this again, I hope that Gargoyles is up higher. And I'll have seen all of Wingfeather by then as well, hopefully. Or at least read it. So we'll see where we go from there. But Gargoyles, the comic, actually sucks. So far. Alright, and now we have The Lost Ages. So, what do I think about this? This is a fantasy series about a sort of Neolithic tribe who are trying to basically save the world. The world, I mean, they're Neolithic, but it's set in the future. So the world basically had this thing happen, like a mass extinction event. And with that mass extinction event, everyone sort of like reset, and we end up going on this sort of Conan-esque adventure through the New Europe to try and sort of save humanity. It's full of big beasts. It's got amazing art. I did a video review of it, so you guys should check it out. But The Lost Ages, in my book, in my opinion, which is the only opinion on this channel, is it an A? Yeah. Oh, I'm tossing between A and B, but I'm going to give it an A. It was refreshing. It was fun. The art is a standout, like a lot of things Europe comics. And yeah, thoroughly enjoyed reading it. Can't wait for it to finish, but so far the only 2 issues are out, and we'll see where we go from there. And next up we have another comic from Europe Comics. Well, this is from Cinebook, but it's another European comic. This is Nottingham. There's a lot of Nottingham comics, but this specific one is what we're talking about here. This is a relaunch of the sort of classic Robin Hood story, except it's sort of it's a play on it where Robin Hood is sort of a everyone is Robin Hood, so to speak. It's a costume that you wear when you're going to do these things. So it's more like the Robin Hood is a symbol, not a person. It was a really interesting take with some incredible art and a good story. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I want to see where it's going. Is it as good as The Lost Ages? No. Yes. No. Yes. It's a tough one. Because the art is fantastic and the story is interesting. The fight scenes are really good too. I guess because I haven't finished them, I don't have that payoff to go on. But based on what is available as of today, the 1st of January 2023, these are good. These are very good. And I would recommend in terms of comics. All right. Now we have The Nightmare Brigade. This was a fun comic about a group of kids who can go into your dreams, your nightmares, and resolve them. It's like a mental health thing. So their dad is like the owner of an insane asylum where these people who are haunted by their dreams go insane sleep. And the kids go into all these twisted Tim Burton-esque dreams. It looks like an old Nickelodeon cartoon from the 90s. It reads like one as well. It's very nostalgic, even though it's a new comic. I think this would be a great cartoon series if someone were to pick it up. I hope they do. I'm definitely giving this. It's a solid B. You might like it more. Like I understand if you're not me, you might like it more. But unfortunately, I am me, and I don't really lean into horror too well. And even though it's a kids' horror thing, it just doesn't mesh too well with me. And that's why it's a B, but for the certain people, this could be an A or even an S. I think it's really good, but for me, it's a B. Now we have Synchronic. This is sort of a detective revenge story where this dude... I don't want to give spoilers away now, do I? This dude has a thing in his brain that makes him not feel emotion. And his wife was murdered due to a plot. It was an interesting read. Definitely enjoyed it. But one, it doesn't end. Like a lot of Europe comics, it was cancelled too early. Because of that and because of what I've read, it's completely average. I'm going to give it a C. Had it actually ended and given me a payoff, it might be better. But where it sits right now, Synchronic is a C tier. I enjoyed it. Like, C isn't bad, it's just average. D is where things get into the bad territory, and God forbid you get an F. Or an E. But yeah, Synchronic, you might like it more than me. Your mileage may vary, but it doesn't end. And that's a problem, because it gives you a big cliffhanger, and that's not very satisfying. Ooh, okay. The King of Spies with this dapper gent. This is by Mark Millar. I thought I would hate this. The first issue is everything I don't like about storytelling in comics, and somehow Mark Millar made me enjoy it. And then as it goes on, you do feel for this character. Leans a little too heavy in the politics, I'll admit that, but I mean, it's the sort of story that would. Where do I rank this as well? Very high production value, but that's Mark Millar. They've it's traditionally published. They've got the money to do it. The issue is it reads like a story, like a storyboard for a movie, and not like a comic. Like they were sort of using this to try and get a movie made. And that's a bit of a downfall. Like they were trying to go for the John Wick angle. I think The King of Spies overall, it is very fun. There is good art. It's zany. Some people may like it more than me. I'm giving it a B. So that's The King of Spies. Now we have The Batman. A lot of people say this was the best movie of 2022. There's a lot of people out there putting it in top fives. A lot of people saying it's the best Batman movie ever. There's a lot of talk about this movie. Unfortunately, The Batman is an F. It sucks. It's awful. It's incel Batman. It's really, really bad. No one on this production set actually understood what a Batman movie should be. No one understands Bruce Wayne as a character. Alfred did all the riddle solving. Catwoman does all the action. It's just awful. Absolutely awful. And you know, I'm just going to spoil it because you should have seen it by now. Batman doesn't even save the day. He allows the Riddler to win because he doesn't know what a freaking simple household tool is. It ends up causing a massive flood through Gotham that probably killed thousands, if not tens of thousands of people. And then he renounces violence at the end of the movie. Says he's going to be a better Batman without the violence. It's absolutely awful. It's cringe. It's probably the movie that made me give up on DC Comics, to be honest with you. Absolutely awful. Don't bother with it. Alright, now we have another comic book. This is Midnight's War over on archaven.com. I believe this is getting a Kickstarter for a full series. And Midnight's War is interesting. I've spoken about it before on the channel quite a bit. It feels like two stories in one. You've got this weird vigilante guy here doing this thing, and then he sort of takes a backseat. Then you get this vampire mob story going in, and then that takes a backseat for a detective story. And I'm kind of torn because I love the detective story. I think that is where this is at its strongest. And if I'm not mistaken, that part's written by Chuck Dixon, so it makes sense. But I don't care about any of the other stuff. And because it's all there, and because the series isn't finished yet, it's currently doing a crowdfund for the full thing, I just don't know where to put it. Because the detective stuff is sort of B, maybe even A tier. And everything else is kind of C, D tier. So because of that, and I know, like, people are going to see this and be like, oh, that's a bit mean. Like, but because of that, like, if it was just the detective stuff, it's an A. But because I don't really enjoy all the other stuff, it's a C. Like, it brings it down to C. Yeah. Moving on, we have Shang. This is Zenescope. Zenescope are an interesting comic company. They use a lot of cheesecake to sell their comics. Shang was a request. Someone wanted to know if it was any good. I gave it a read. It's completely average. There's nothing new and interesting in the story. There's nothing you haven't seen before a million times. But it's not. There's nothing bad about it. It's just not original. It's not unique. It's not trying to blow minds. It's just a standard romp. So yeah, Shang is a C. I can't believe Gargoyles was worse than Shang. The Ascent, Star Spangled Banner. This was over on Archaven. They're crowdfunding the full thing. It made a lot of money. A lot of people like it. I believe there's a tabletop campaign about this universe as well. Unfortunately for the Ascent, Star Spangled Banner, it's a D tier. It's very tropey. The pacing is awful. There's no consistency between the heroes and the villains. They don't look like they came from the same worlds. It's a very mishmash. And it's not unique in any way whatsoever. And because of that, it's not fun to read. So it's a D tier. Alright, The Courier. This was fun. This is kind of like The Walking Dead. Where there's sort of these savages, zombie type things out there that like they're mutants, and this chick is a courier who goes across the wastelands to deliver packages and stuff to these different human tribes and walled cities. It's very sort of it's not, I'm not going to say cyberpunk, but there is a strong sci-fi element to it. I'm just failing to name the genre right now. But it's kind of like a sci-fi Walking Dead. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It does copy The Walking Dead a little too much in some aspects. But The Courier, to me, is a B. It does end, though. I will say that. Unlike a lot of the comics I've read, it does actually end. So that's a good thing. It has an ending. No, the Courier is definitely good. You might really enjoy it. I enjoyed it when I read it. I read it all in one sitting, if that means anything to you. So definitely give the Courier a go if sci-fi Walking Dead with mutants sounds like your thing. All right, now we have a novel, not a comic. This is Michael Connelly's The Black Echo. It's a Bosch novel. It's the first Bosch novel. I'm going to put all of the Bosch novels that I've read, I think I've read the first 4 or 5 of them at this point, into this category. So I'm not strictly talking about The Black Echo, but these are incredibly well-written detective stories. If you want to know how to write characters and dialogue, or how to make dialogue that creates a character, give The Black Echo a go. I'm going to move some of these down. Because The Black Echo, to me, sits right up the top of A tier. Michael Connelly, there's a reason why everything he does gets turned into movies and TV series. He's so good at writing dialogue and believable characters, and the stories are entertaining as well, with plenty of twists, etc., that you may see coming or may not see coming. So yeah, The Black Echo is an A tier. It's bordering on an S tier, but it's an A tier. I haven't read all of it. And yeah, I just thoroughly enjoy it. Definitely, if you like crime stories and you like detective crime stories and you haven't read any of the Michael Connelly stuff, give it a go. It's amazing. Oh, and to counter the Batman, we also had Black Adam come out this year. This movie was a long time in the making. I remember over a decade ago, when they announced Dwayne Johnson was joining the DC universe. And at this time, understand that Arrow Season 1 was a thing. And Man of Steel, I think, had just come out or was coming out. So I was very excited because Rock was coming off of Hercules. He was looking huge. That was like the first time we saw huge Rock and not just like normal Rock, like walking tall Rock. And we were very, very excited, me and my friends at the time, very excited for this movie. And then the trailer came out, 13, 14 years later, and it let me down. The tone was very off, and I didn't really like what I saw, but I still went and saw this movie. And if it wasn't for Dr. Fate right here, MVP and Hawkman, this movie would be probably sitting in C, maybe D. But because of how good Dr. Fate was and Hawkman, The Rock, his ego, he needs an ego check, and he needs to understand that sometimes he has to take a back seat in his movies. Yeah, and this guy and these two down here really ruined the movie for me. But thanks to such a stellar performance from these two here, The Rock gets its place. I'm going to pop it in B. It's way better than the Batman, though. Like, if you were like, I just want to watch one superhero movie this year, I mean, obviously you got Samaritan. And Black Adam, I think, was on par with Samaritan. So the Black Adam is going up in B. I'm just going to shuffle these around so it's a bit more accurate to how I feel about them. I think I enjoyed Samaritan more, but I'm a simp for Sylvester Stallone, so please understand that. Alright, what's next? Emma and Violet. This is such a sweet story. This is by Europe Comics. The art is 11 out of 10. It's so beautiful. It's a coming-of-age slice-of-life story about these two sisters who are dancers and ballerinas specifically. Unfortunately, it doesn't end soon. You get the first 2 issues. But what is there is incredible. And I loved this. And I do highly recommend, if you're into slice of life, if you're into sort of these sort of like teen romancy stuff, or just like sort of heartfelt stories, Emma and Violet was great. And yeah, I highly recommend. Really enjoyed it. I'm still upset that it's only 2 issues. and the third one's probably never coming out. So can we get that trending? Can you guys out there hit up Europe Comics and say, hey, we want Emma and Violet 3, please, and respectfully. Emma and Violet is great, really great. We've already done the Lost Ages. I must have put it in here twice, but now we have the Me You Love in the Dark. This is a horror story, very similar to I really, this is the problem with doing things live, right? This is very similar to that other comic I read last year about the artist who moves into a haunted house. Except in this one, and falls in love with the ghosts, and they ghost bang. That was funny. But where that was a comedy, The Me You Love in the Dark is a serious drama. And it's a very, very good story with some really creepy art, and the creature is super creepy. Burton-esque once again. I've thoroughly enjoyed this too. Like I said, I don't lean into horror very well. It's not my genre. So your mileage may vary, but I think the tone of the story was strong enough where I think The Me You Love in the Dark is a solid B. So that's where we're going to pop it, right there next to King of Spies. Your mileage may vary. If you like horror more than me, you may think it's an A, but I'm popping it in B. And now we have Unbound. Unbound, a story about a bunch of monster hunters in a video game. Like, these are video game characters. They have real world characters. It's very cyberpunky, little diesel punky. But they're bounty hunters in the game, and then weird things start happening in the game. You've heard this story before. Everyone knows this story, but I think Unbound did it very well with some incredible art. As always, it's Zenescope, so no surprise there. They have some of the best artists in the biz. Unbound was a solid comic. Did I like it as much as The Lost Ages and Nottingham and Wingfeather Saga? No, I think Unbound is a solid B as well. Only because it's a story we've all seen before. It is done very well, but it is a story that's not unique in any way, shape, or form. Ignore the snacks. We have one more on this list, and this is Avatar: The Way of Water. Avatar: The Way of Water is the best film I've seen in an incredibly long time, since probably the first Avatar movie. I was going to do a full review of it, but a few people I know said, hey, we should all sit down and do a discussion of this. One of those people hasn't seen the movie yet, and the other person hasn't hit me up back. So I sort of waited for them, and that kicked me in the butt. So I should probably do my own review of it and talk about it. But just know, if you haven't seen this movie, you need to go and see this movie. It is S tier. It's S+, S++. I saw grown men get out of their seats and cry at certain points in the movie. Like, everyone in the cinema around me was audibly gasping and sort of panicking and oh my god, it's like, I don't know how James Cameron does it, but you don't bet against James Cameron. This movie's already made over $1 billion, and it's fast tracking itself to be the best movie of 2022, financially, that is. Avatar: The Way of Water is an S tier. It gets its own tier list. I'm just going to pop the whole poster here, okay? If you haven't seen this movie, go and see it. Best movie of the year. Oh no, where are you going? Bring back Jake and Natiri. Oh gosh. Anyway, look, you can have you can have Loak and Soraya. There's Jake. Look at him go. Yeah. I absolutely loved this movie. Everything about it is incredible. Highly recommend. I'm going to wrap it up with that. So let's hope 2023 brings some more fun and enjoyment Let me know what you thought down below. Feel free to scream at me about the Batman. It doesn't change the fact that it's a terrible movie. And I will see you all in the next video. Have a good one.